Charlie Moe, as a lot of you knew him, Blackmer, was a one-of-a-kind. He's an explorer, an adventurer, scientist, iron worker, union member, mountaineer, skydiver, motorcyclist, cross-country and downhill skier, avid reader, landscaper, bar owner, and all-around kind, funny guy. Charlie was born on March 19th, 1947 to Charles, or Chuck and Sonny as some people knew him, and Mary Silta Blackmer in Bigford. 1947 was also the year his uncle, Myron Carlson, constructed the very popular dome structure known as Deer Lake Charlie's, the business he and his sister have operated since 1992. Growing up right here on the shores of Deer Lake in this spot, Charlie loved dinosaurs, reading, studying, observing the cosmos, and exploring the woods. Charlie often spoke of his father building him a sand table so he could play with his dinosaurs in style. He attended elementary school in Togo, Minnesota, and fondly remembered his favorite teacher, Mrs. Lipke. He attended Big Fork High School, graduating in 1965. And he was on the football team, and his greatest sports moment, according to him, was when he caught the one pass of his career, the winning touchdown for the Huskies. He played baseball and was in the drama club. Charlie excelled in math and the sciences, so much so that he was awarded a scholarship to the University of Denver in 1965, where he studied physics. Charlie, as I think we all know, was a risk taker. He lived for and through some very high adventures. Charlie referred to his wild adventures as missions. Mountain climbing was one of his greatest joys, and he also took up skydiving and was part of a formation jump that held a record for a while for the largest formation in 1972. And in 73, and in a few other years, Charlie with some friends skydived into the North Star Rodeo Arena in Effie as part of the entertainment. He had many skydiving friends, but he had one special one, Jill Johnson, who was his wife from 1999 to 2004. Overall, Charlie racked up 700 plus jumps. On a suggestion from friends, Charlie got into ironwork. He had no fear of heights, many times volunteering for what was considered the most dangerous part of ironwork, the connector. He loved to be up high and thoroughly enjoyed the views. He worked on many structures, including the Friven Financial Building in Minneapolis and the largest Delta hangar, also in Minneapolis. In 72 and 73, Charlie lived in Hawaii for a while, along with several friends, while working on the Aloha Stadium, still in use today. He worked iron all over the world and the country. He was a dedicated member of the Iron Workers Union, and whenever risky activity challenged him, Charlie referred to it as the amusing part of the activity, which usually meant you could die. On a dare from a friend, he applied to work iron in Antarctica. Now, anyone who met Charlie knew Antarctica was a part of his fiber. It was his greatest passion and joy. He was asked to winter over his first year there in 1986 and 87. He lived and worked at McMurdo Station through the harsh Antarctic winter. I know, because I've been there, Antarctica changes people. And after that year, Charlie was forever focused on the bottom of the earth. The place imprinted in his brain, he talked about how he dreamt of it, of how it was always in his head. He would go on to work iron and construction on all U.S. Antarctic bases, McMurdo, Scott Amundsen, South Pole, and Palmer. He visited other bases and had many adventures by ski and snowmobile on his precious days off. Mount Erebus, the southernmost active volcano on the planet, became the focus of his daring do. He practiced and planned, and finally on Saturday, January 19th through 20, 1991, he told two people what he was about to do. Charlie borrowed a snowmobile, packed water, a sandwich, a camera, and went on the greatest and most challenging adventure of his lifetime. Charlie parked the machine at 8,000 feet, having started at sea level, and set off on foot. He recounted feeling as if he was being watched by some malevolent force the higher he got. After several grueling hours on an extremely dangerous and difficult upward trek, he reached the summit at 448 feet in a record 17 hours, which has never been repeated. When asked what he did there, his eyes always twinkled. I pissed into the crater. He also took several photographs, early selfies while there. This was the farthest out there mission. Charlie holds the world record for it. His Erebus adventure was recounted in 2 books about Antarctica, one called Big Dead Place by a friend of his, Nicholas Johnson, and Terra Incognito by friend Sarah Wheeler. On December 31st, 2007, Charlie agreed to tell his tale of daring do on tape. He recounted the entire process in his own words in the main office of the old electrical generation plant at McMurdo. The Arctic sun lights him as he weaves the tale of his epic adventure. Out of the window, across the Ross Sea, the Trans-Royal Antarctic Mountains are reflected in his eyes, and he dreamt of them all the time. Charlie worked in Antarctica for 17 seasons, his last trip in 2007-2008. One year he rode a freighter to Australia on his way home from the ice. He became the go-to guy for all manner of odd work and was beloved by his fellow workers and management. He became the structural steel supervisor on many buildings, including the top-tier dorms and the McCrary Science Lab, which is just an engineering marvel to see. He also supervised construction projects at the South Pole. As an amateur scientist, Charlie engaged in the very technical and intense discussions with many NASA scientists he met in Antarctica. They would come to meet him. They would come to have discussions with him. They sought him out. And he held his own with every NASA scientist that came up because he knew all about it.
An avid reader, Charlie read just about every science fiction book around. He never complained and would shrug off things that would have stopped almost any of the rest of us in our tracks. He helped everyone anytime with almost anything they needed. In the last years of his life, Charlie was involved at the Edge Center in Big Fork, worked on the construction of the center itself, worked backstage, helped with lighting and set construction. In 2010, he played a Russian Cossack in the production of Fiddler on the Roof. His beautiful and haunting photo, Marshall's Garden, was selected for the 2012 juried art show at the gallery. Later on in life, Charlie took up landscaping here on this property at Deer Lake. Many of you have been here many times before. Go around and see what Charlie had done to the place. He built birdhouses, planted trees, shrubs, and flowers. He built himself the shack over on the side, he called it a shack, where he could lay in bed and observe the cosmos. Every day, he filled the bird feeders and looked out for the family's pets and the area wildlife. Gail and Charlie operate the tavern at Deer Lake Charlie's. In the family, since its inception, Charlie was the perfect host and bartender. He listened to many stories and told even more. He loved the unique structure and spent countless hours restoring, maintaining, and fixing up the building that was constructed, as Audrey said, the same year that he was born. Charlie will be missed by thousands all over. He was very invested in the early days of KAXE, Northern Community Radio. He had a program called Travels with Charlie about the cosmos and shared his knowledge and love of astronomy with thousands of people. He was very generous with his time and talents. If anyone asked him about the night sky, he would always offer to give them a tour of the cosmos through his telescopes. Charlie never needed a star map. He knew the night skies like the back of his hand. Space travel and exploration was another one of his passions. So many were awed by his summer night excursions outside to watch satellites, the International Space Station, and sometimes the Space Shuttle as they passed overhead. He followed many blogs on research, space, and astrophysics as a pastime. He fantasized that one day he might get to go to Mars. No doubt part of why he loved Antarctica so much, because that place is like another planet. And Charlie could party with the best of them. He was soft-spoken, but had a larger-than-life reputation for knowing how to have a good time. He was a fixture in the West Bank community in the late 60s and 70s when he lived in Minneapolis. He frequented the Viking Bar, Palmer's, and the Riverside Cafe. The Deer Lake Boogie grew out of his associations with many talented musicians who hung out there. This famous music festival hosted by the Blackmer family grew from a few folks getting together to jam on this beach to a huge and beloved music festival that lasted 25 years, from 1970 to 1995, when finally the event got so ginormous that it outgrew this beach in itself. Enjoy your journey through the cosmos, Charlie. Those twinkling stars in the night sky just might be your blue eyes smiling down on the rest of us. You and Spock left the planet together in search of intelligent life. Your final mission.